It's nice of you to finally join us. I looked around the room and counted 5 people. I was tied to a chair and gagged. This is what my mother told me about when she said one day my pranks would go too far. Hey, my name is Keston. Before I tell you how I got in that predicament, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Hey, here he comes, the king of pranks, my best friend Dillon said dramatically. My friends hollered and screamed as I walked towards them in the hallway. My last prank, switching my principal's toupee with a mop head, got me suspended for 2 weeks. So, any idea for the upcoming football game? We're depending on you to get back at the Bulldogs after last week's prank, Aidan asked. The Bulldogs and WildKatz have been the greatest rivals since the beginning of time. Nobody even knows how it all began. Last week, the Bulldogs removed all of our food from the cafeteria and replaced it with catnip. The week before that, the WildKatz spray painted a stone monument of the mascot blue and orange, the colors of the WildKatz. Every year, each team tried to outdo the other. We only had one sacred rule among rival teams. Mascots were left untouched. I gave it some thought and said, "We're going to steal JoJo," I said with a smirk. JoJo was the mascot of the Bulldogs, who was an actual dog. Bro, I don't think that's a good idea. That's like the oldest rivalry code. Mascots are sacred. Sacred, I tell ya, Aidan said. I have to agree with him there, Keston. If they find out that JoJo is missing, who knows what type of Pandora's box you would have unlocked, Jordan responded. And isn't there supposed to be some legendary curse that will fall upon the person who tries to steal a mascot? Didn't you hear about the Rosetta twins who stole their rival school mascots and mysteriously disappeared? That's treading into dangerous territory, Dillon said. Aw, come on, don't tell me that you guys believe that garbage. Listen, it would be quite simple. We would sneak into the frat house, take JoJo for a few hours, and drop him off before anyone finds out. On the day of the game, we would ask them to post a picture of JoJo in a WildKatz costume on the screen. Nobody would even know it was us, I said confidently. My friends tried to persuade me from the gesture and warned me that mascots were off limits in rivals and anything else was fair game. They even tried to give other ideas for pranks that we could use, but my mind was made up. I wanted to make a name for myself so that when I left this school, my name would be on the lips of students for many years to come. Guys, we would be legends if we pull this off, I said, rubbing my hands together sinisterly. And what if we don't? Aidan asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. Before I could respond, someone else spoke from behind me. Why are you limiting yourself to just pictures? That sounds like a chicken move to me. Make it interesting and create a TikTok video. Unless, of course, the prank king is afraid. You can't be a legend if nobody knows who did it, dork. Ali Moses said as he clucked like a chicken around his group of friends who laughed hysterically. He continued, I think he's afraid of getting bitten by the Bulldogs. Ain't nobody afraid of no damn Bulldogs. You want a TikTok video? You got a TikTok video, I snarled. Ali and his boys brushed past us and continued to laugh. Just as I was about to take a swing at Ali, Jordan held back my arm. He ain't worth it, bro, he said and shook his head. That afternoon, we created a plan, and at 10 p.m., we were all gathered to execute it. We parked a little way down the street from the frat house. Okay, guys, this is it. The prank that will turn us all into legends. Are you ready? I asked. We all nodded our heads and set to the task at hand. JoJo was usually kept in the frat house of the quarterback of the football team, so therefore always heavily guarded. We had to create a distraction to get them out of the house for a few minutes so that I could sneak in and nab JoJo. There were a few shrubs outside the frat house. Dillon and Aidan doused the plants with kerosene and then lit them. Jordan stayed behind the wheel as our getaway man. As soon as the alarm was raised and the guys started pouring out the house to see what was happening, I snuck in through the back. Once I was inside, I grabbed the dog and gave him a few treats to get him to stay quiet. I thought I was in the clear. I wasn't expecting anyone else to be in the frat house, but boy was I wrong. My ex-girlfriend from high school was now the girlfriend of the quarterback, and of course the head cheerleader. Hey Rhonda, how are you? I asked as I edged closer to the window that I entered. Depends. What you got under your arm there, Keston? She asked as she stood in front of me with both arms on her hips. I pleaded with her to keep quiet, but she refused. Guys, they're trying to steal JoJo, she screamed. I dove out the window and ran to the car, which was parked a little way down the street. We decided to head to the cemetery as we figured that no one would think of us being there, hence lessening our chances of being caught. As we were dressing JoJo in his WildKatz cheerleading outfit, something fell from under his collar. It was a small brown satchel. I opened it and the contents made my jaw drop. It was diamonds. Now, how did diamonds get under JoJo's collar? Jordan asked. The fairy diamond mother sent them, Aidan laughed. Okay guys, let's do this so we can get JoJo back and then we can discuss the diamonds after, I said as I placed the diamonds back in the satchel and into my pocket. We took pictures of JoJo and I did the TikTok video. As soon as I was finished, we heard a male voice ask, "Hey, what are you kids doing over there?" We drove back to the frat house and left JoJo on the doorstep. When I hopped back into the car and we drove off, I said, "Okay guys, what are we going to do about the diamonds?" "I've been checking the internet," Aidan said. "There was actually a robbery that took place about 3 weeks ago, and the only thing that was stolen was diamonds." Aidan looked at us and grinned from ear to ear. But that's not the best part. There's a reward of $100,000 to anyone who could give information on the whereabouts of the diamonds. That means $25,000 apiece. The next day, my friends and I went down to the police station and gave statements. The owner of the jewelry store came with his gemologist who verified that the diamonds were indeed his. As promised, he wrote each one of us a check for $25,000. But the police wanted to know exactly who was behind it. They knew that it could be any one of the guys at the frat house and they needed a name. They offered us another $100,000 reward if we caught the culprit. We walked out of the station $25,000 richer, and the thought of another $25,000 on the horizon caused us to become basically private investigators. Nothing major happened over the next few days until I got a phone call from my ex-girlfriend, Rhonda. "Hey, Cass, can you come pick me up? My battery died," she said sweetly. "Brad can't remember how to start a car?" I chided. "Why don't you ask him to pick you up?" "I already tried everyone else and no one is picking up." Against my better judgment, I decided to meet her. The battery in her car was totaled, and I called a tow truck to collect the car. I expected someone to jump out and grab me while we waited for the tow truck, but that didn't happen. Once the tow truck removed the car from the side of the road, I dropped her home and she thanked me. The next few days, we chatted via messages, and then we decided to go out. I actually forgot how much fun I had with her. For our third date, we decided to go back to her place. We had pizza, a few beers, and watched movies. I told her about the diamonds we found in JoJo's collar and about the first reward we got. She listened intently as I told her about the second reward. "If you help us, you could be $20,000 richer," I said and winked at her. "All you have to do is help us figure out which one of the guys placed the diamonds under the collar." "Well, maybe I can help you," she smiled. "Or you could help me." She whispered in my ear, "You see, the diamonds that you decided to take back to the owner was my uncle's. He's been breathing down my neck ever since I lost them. Now, I have someone to take the rap for the entire thing, thanks to your TikTok video." I tried to get up, but I couldn't, and she smiled at me. "Thank you for your assistance." I watched helplessly as Rhonda picked up her phone and made a call. "Yep, the same one on the TikTok video. He's here and ready for the taking," she said as she looked over at me and smiled. That was the last thing I remembered. When I did wake, I woke up strapped to a chair. I expected to see Brad and his goons over me, but they weren't. I sat in a room with well-dressed men, and I was quite confused at the turn of events. "What am I doing here, and who the hell are you?" I asked angrily as soon as my gag was removed. The man who was sitting in the middle of the table stood up and lit a cigar. "You took something from me." "I don't even know who you are. I don't have anything of yours," I said. Rhonda walked into the room and stood next to her uncle and smiled deviously. "Well, according to my niece, you took it to the police and got a bit of cash for my diamonds, to the sum of $100,000. Now I don't have my diamonds." He slammed his hands on the table. "What? I said, but was cut off. "See, I'm trying to teach my niece the ropes. She assured me that nothing would happen to my diamonds since no one was allowed to interfere with the mascots since they were off limits." He walked towards me and held my face. He looked into my eyes and said, "Apparently, sir, you do not know what is off limits." He turned my face roughly and walked around the room as he continued to talk. "Look," I said, "what if I got you the $100,000? We could call it a day. I could leave and everyone would be happy. The men in the room laughed. Rhonda's uncle continued. The worth of those diamonds were $5 million, he snarled. At first, I didn't believe my niece. I thought she stole them for herself. Then she showed me this. His voice trailed off. He picked up the phone from the table and showed me the TikTok video I made. Since my diamonds are gone, you are now in my debt. Being in my debt means that I now own you until your debt is paid. For the next 10 years, you will not eat, sleep, bathe until I tell you to. You are mine, he growled. I looked at him and laughed. I'm not interested in your offer. Mo, show this little dweeb what happens to people who aren't interested in our offers, Rhonda's uncle said. A man stood up and walked towards me with pictures in his hand. He showed me pictures of my friends and family that were recently taken. We know who your friends are. We know the members of your family. If you decide to run to the police or tell anyone what happened here tonight, your friends and your family will go missing one by one, he said. I instantly regretted taking JoJo as I bowed my head. It was the prank that changed my entire life. It has been 7 years since that incident happened, and what I do know is that he will never let me go after 10 years because of everything I've seen and heard within the organization. I am stuck for life. After I finished college, I moved away from home and stopped talking to my friends so that I could keep them safe. I never allowed anyone to get close to me since they may also end up in harm's way. An agent reached out to me and told me if I cooperated with them, when Rhonda's uncle goes down, I will get a lighter sentence. I took the offer as an informant in hopes that they can finally catch these bastards and put them all behind bars. I lost my freedom and want it back, and I am willing to do whatever it takes to do that, even if it means serving time in prison.